patrolling Canyon Road prior to the accident, am I right?
My shift begins at 2300 hours, and I was on patrol I was patrolling from about 2300 to 2330, at which point I decided I was going to run radar. So I was actually stationary at that point.
And you were stationary on Canyon Road with that radar gun right when you saw the defendant drive by?
Yes.
You clocked her going at 54 miles an hour, am I right?
Miles per hour, yes, that's correct.
Now that's speeding, am I right?
Yes, it is.
So after you clocked Miss Dawson traveling at 54 miles an hour, you still didn't pull her over?
No, I did not pull her over.
Let's talk now about when you arrived on the scene of that accident, officer. You came on that accident after you saw the defendant walking around, am I right?
Well, I came to the accident because I was dispatched.
And when you were dispatched to the scene, officer, you saw Miss Dawson outside of the vehicle?
Yes, Miss Dawson was standing outside of the vehicle when I arrived at the scene.
And shortly after, officer, the district attorney arrived on the scene of the accident.
Yes, the district attorney is Vanessa Sullivan's mother.
Right, and after arriving on the scene, officer, the district attorney, she had just seen her daughter next to the ambulance, am I right?
Yeah, I believe that she saw that.
And after immediately seeing that her daughter had just died, she started screaming at Miss Dawson, didn't she?
Yes, she was visibly upset.
She started screaming things like, "I'm going to make your life a living hell."
Yes, she was very upset.
Objection, Your Honor. Hearsay.
Your Honor, may I respond?
Yes.
Under Rule 8032, this qualifies as an exception to hearsay. It is an excited utterance. We have just shown that Mrs. Sullivan was under the immediate stress of the event and that she was responding to the event that actually occurred, Your Honor. Her daughter had just died and was feet away from her.
May I be heard, Your Honor?
Yes.
Your Honor, if this is qualified as an excited utterance, in that case, just the simple fact that Ms. Sullivan was screaming should be enough to present to the jury. For the specific words of what she was saying, we do not want that to be given for the truth of the matter asserted. Therefore, it would prejudice the jury.
Yes.
Your Honor, if I'm correct, opposing counsel is shifting their objection to 403 that it is more substantial than probative? Or substantially more prejudicial than probative?
Sounds like it.
Your Honor, under Rule 403, it's not substantially more prejudicial than probative. It's probative for the jury to understand what exactly was going on when the officer administered these field sobriety tests. He just explained that she failed all 4 of them. Well, it's important to know exactly what was going on during those events, and those things that the district attorney was screaming at my client is probative to really understand if those tests are reliable.
I heard of only 3 tests. The objection is overruled for the reason that the statement by the district attorney is not being offered for the truth of that statement, but only for the anger that apparently the officer heard.
Yes, Your Honor.
Officer, moments after the district attorney arrived on scene and after she had just seen her daughter, she screamed at the defendant.
Yes.
She screamed things like, "I'm going to make your life a living hell."
Yes.
And it is when the district attorney started screaming at Miss Dawson, that's when you decided field sobriety tests were appropriate.
I decided that field sobriety tests were appropriate because of Miss Dawson's slurred speech.
And you decided that after the district attorney started screaming at Miss Dawson.
Yes, that's when it occurred in the timeline of events.
So earlier in your direct examination, you told us that you ran 3 field sobriety tests, am I right?
3 standard field sobriety tests.
But you also ran an additional one prior to those 3 tests.
I did.
One that a lot of officers do in your sitting whenever you think someone might be drunk.
Yeah, I wouldn't say a lot of officers do it. Some officers do it. It's not considered a standard one, which is why I had to run 3 additional standard field sobriety tests.
Well, you use it all the time, don't you?
I do.
And the way you run these tests, that specific test, officer, is you have a subject say their ABCs backwards.
That is correct.
Officer, I want you to do something for me. Your Honor, may the witness step down? Could you step down for me, officer? All right, I want to be sure I understand exactly how these tests work. So tell me where exactly, if I were you, where you would be standing if you were, say, asking Ms. Dawson to do her ABCs.
Okay, so in the police department, we have very tactical stances where we stand because a lot of times we deal with people who want to fight with us, right?
Sure.
So
I'm not fighting with you.
So am I the officer or are you the officer?
I am today.
You're the officer. Okay, so I'm going to be the bad guy.
Sure.
And you don't know if I'm going to fight with you or not.
Okay.
So, you're going to take a tactical stance. So let's just say you're the bad guy for now, right? Okay? You're going to stand like this. You're going to stand off to the side of them.
No,
And now, are you right-handed or left-handed?
Excuse me, I'm going to stop you right there. I want the jury to be able to see what exactly we're doing here.
Okay, so you're the officer, right?
Sure.
Well, let's just say real quickly I'm the officer, you're the bad guy.
Okay.
And I'm talking to you.
Okay.
I'm not going to talk to you like this, right?
Sure.
Because you could attack me and you'd be right on me, right?
Sure.
So I'm going to stand off a little to the side so that I can get to you, but straight ahead, I'm not right in front of your path.
Perfect. All right, so let's have you be the bad guy over here, and I'm going to be the officer.
Well, there's one more thing.
Okay, what is that?
Are you right-handed or left-handed?
I am right-handed.
So you would carry your gun on your right side.
Right here.
Okay, then you would stand with your right hip away from the suspect.
That's what I'm doing.
Okay.
Right hips away.
There we go.
Are we ready?
That's it.
Okay. Do you know your ABCs backwards?
You know, I do, but it's very slow. I'm not very good at it.
That's perfectly fine. I want you to start with your ABCs backwards, let's say starting from letter X.
X.
Sure.
X, W, V.
Excuse me, sir.
Objection, Your Honor. There are people yelling in the courtroom. It's distracting my witness.
My apologies, Your Honor. I don't believe there's a rule of evidence that does not allow someone to say something.
I believe it's inappropriate to interrupt a witness in the midst of their testimony beyond a question or an interjection by the person examining them. Counsel, unless you want to contribute to the court's financial fund, you won't do that again.
Yes, Your Honor.
Your Honor, may I proceed? A moment ago, officer, my opposing counsel just said, excuse me, and you stopped doing your ABCs backwards, didn't you?
Yes, I did. It's very, I guess it's not a social norm for an attorney to yell out.
I'm sorry, officer, I'm not asking you about social norms. My question is, my co-counsel over here interrupted you from completing your ABCs backwards, didn't she?
Yes, she did. She interrupted my testimony.
Thank you. You may take your seat.
Oh.
And now, while she was doing those ABCs backwards, excuse me, now I'm talking about Ms. Dawson. And when she was doing her ABCs backwards that night, this was while the district attorney was screaming those things at her, am I right?
Yes. Yes.
And, excuse me, and yet your testimony is that because she failed to continue her ABCs all the way through, that meant that she was drunk.
No.
Is it not your testimony that because she failed to do her ABCs backwards, because she was not able to do them continuously, that doesn't mean she was drunk?
Can I explain something really quickly, Counselor? Would that be okay with you?
Absolutely, go ahead.
I did not arrest, I did not have probable cause to arrest Ms. Dawson for driving under the influence after administering the ABC test, because that is not a standard practice field sobriety test. However, I did at that point have reasonable suspicion to conduct, which gives me the legal authority to conduct the standard field sobriety test on Ms. Dawson.
So after not completing this ABCs backwards, that is when you suspected that she might be intoxicated.
Well, I suspected that she might be intoxicated when I heard her speech was slurred, but that alone was not enough for me to have reasonable suspicion to administer the standard 3 field sobriety test.
Apologies, officer. I wasn't asking you whether or not her speech was slurred. My question is actually, after giving her this ABC test backwards, and after she wasn't able to continuously do her ABCs, that's when you decided she might be drunk.
That's when I decided, yes, she may be drunk, yes. That combined with the fact that her speech had been slurred.
With the district attorney screaming down her neck.
Yes, but I don't think that had anything to do with her speech being slurred.
Well, let's talk about what it might have something to do with. You then began your 3 field sobriety tests that, in your words, are the standard.
Yes, they are.
The first of which was that nystagmus test, am I right?
Yes, and that one is my favorite.
Your favorite?
Yes.
It's your favorite because you think it's infallible.
Yes, well, there's no external factors that can influence that test unless the suspect has a nystagmus, which I asked Ms. Dawson, and she said that she did not have.
But a nystagmus is not the only thing that could prevent them from let's say, passing this test. Let me clarify for you, officer. A head injury might prevent this young woman from being able to move her eyeballs back and forth constantly, am I right?
You know, I mean, I guess that in my over 10 years of experience on the streets, I've never had that issue, and I've administered this test hundreds of times and never run into that issue, but, I mean, I guess really anything.
Let me be sure I understand you right, officer. Your head controls your eyes, am I correct?
Well, I'm actually really not an anatomy expert. I couldn't answer that question.
Officer, are you telling us you don't know whether or not your brain controls your eyeballs?
What I'm saying is that I mean, sure, okay, the brain controls the eyes, I guess.
And if someone may have injured their head after being in a perhaps fatal accident, you're telling us that there is no way that head injury might affect her ability to move her eyeballs back and forth.
Okay, to the best of my ability, Miss Dawson did not have a head injury.
She wasn't medically examined, was she?
She was not, and she did not request medical attention.
Apologies, I didn't ask if she requested it. I'm asking what you did. And you did not submit her to medical examination prior to completing these tests.
No.
Let's talk about another test that you ran. You then had Miss Dawson walk heel to toe, am I right? Something like this?
Yes.
You had her do this on the soaking wet ground.
Yes, the ground was wet. It had been raining.
Officer, that's when you saw her slip?
Yes.
You slipped on the ground too, didn't you?
No, I did not.
Are you telling this jury that you didn't slip when you started walking on that wet pavement?
Yes, I did not slip.
That hasn't always been your statement, has it?
Yes, it has. I almost slipped, but I did not.
Excuse me. You lost your footing when you stepped on the wet ground.
I almost lost my footing. I did not slip.
You were drunk that night.
I was not.
Let's talk about another test that you ran. You then had Miss Dawson stand on one foot for 10 seconds, something like this.
Yes.
Once again, on the wet ground.
Yes.
Once again, with the district attorney screaming at her.
Yes, Miss Sullivan was present.
Thank you, officer. No further questions.